Previously on balls.co.za.
Morning, Jono.
How are you, Blades?
I'm good on this Monday morning. I hope you haven't partied for a week.
I'll be honest with you. I have been partying for 1 week solid.
Yeah,
You
it looks
have.
like it.
Yeah, totally.
No, you won't
That's
get
better.
you won't get any compliments out of Simon, so don't worry. Bloody lucky, hey? Bloody lucky to win the game.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit more than luck involved. But,
Jeez, forget compliments out of Simon. It's tough to get
Yeah,
compliments out of
yeah.
you, Bladen, these days.
yeah, no, it's cool. Look, Blades. That was actually I wanted to speak a little bit about Varsity Cup before we moved on to the more worldly pursuit of Super Rugby. But just I think first of all, big picture, just to acknowledge the Varsity Cup as an incredible vehicle for the next tier of talent in South Africa, and just to congratulate Francois Pienaar and Duitse for their initiative, and obviously SA Rugby for coming on board. I mean, I've been part of one campaign, and obviously it's great when you come out a winner, but the reality is that I've learned a hell of a lot in my new role, but also just to see all the new faces that are coming through the ranks has been amazing.
Yeah, look, it is a fantastic tournament, and the other thing is I was there promoted to do the Corsairs League game, and it was quite remarkable that the crowd, I reckon there were close to 10,000 people there. Fabulous crowd, wasn't there?
That's another thing, Blades. I think we're giving the Varsity Cup a lot of credit, and they put on a good show. But I think the people of Potch also deserve a hell of a lot of credit, and Pika in particular, for the way that they went all out to put on a great show for the viewing public. I don't think. I mean, it was a fantastic event, and that, like you said, it was a packed. It was a full house. The stadium was packed. There was a great vibe. All the students were into it. By and large, people were, exceptionally well behaved. And, at the end of the day, we pulled out a Hail Mary, a little bit of a miracle. And, I don't want to go on about it, but that is probably the greatest comeback that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, if I can jump in there, Blades.
Yeah.
I saw the game, and I must agree with you. And I watched the Paul Roos-Gray game on Saturday as well. And
Yeah, they did a UCT.
Yeah, they did a UCT, and it
Yeah.
reminded, and it's cliche, and we often speak about it, but you can understand why sportsmen actually the top sportsmen never ever give up, and these two games I thought showed exactly why you shouldn't give up. It's a win; you can always perhaps pull it out the bag. You're never out of it.
Yeah.
It's not over till
look,
it's over.
That's it, Simon, and it happened twice on one weekend. And I'll just give you a bit of background. We've been working with Professor Tim Noakes to try and highlight to the players, a few aspects of the mental side of things. And one of the things that we spoke about was the class of 2011, who went up to Tuckies to play a really top team, a team that should have, by all purposes, have beaten us quite comfortably. And that particular class of 2011 held out for 7 minutes, defending their line for that amount of time. It's the most incredible defensive effort you've seen, to hang on really and win the trophy in Pretoria. And so what the message generally, the big picture message was obviously that you must keep playing till the 81st minute, come what may, go to the 81st minute. And it was quite ironic that we had to go up again to Pika to play against probably the best team in the competition at that stage, and we had to attack for 7 minutes to win the game. So it was quite ironic that what the boys had been shown all along was that defensive effort. It's ironic that it happened exactly the other way around. And a little bit of the inside lane is that the head coach Kevin Musican, obviously at 33-15 we realized the game is beyond us, so we emptied out the benches. But the conditioning of the players, they didn't realize that we were just emptying the bench and giving everyone a chance. They actually believed, like they were taught to believe, and they carried on playing till the 81st minute.
And you won it in the 82nd, I think.
And we won it in the 82nd minute.
Yeah.
And it's a truly remarkable. Obviously we had to have a few things. We had to steal a line-out ball. We had to charge down a kick. The ball, we botched up a kick receipt, which didn't bounce into touch, which took a funny bounce and bounced back infield. I mean, that's why I say it's a little bit more than just a little bit of luck. There's probably a lot more at play there that we may not understand. But the reality is those tries that we scored were incredibly well constructed, with a lot of belief. And I was just astonished. It is a truly remarkable thing that in 5 days, that little section of play has had 84,000 hits on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it just shows the level of interest.
That's wonderful. Yeah. You know what sometimes is ironic, going to that Grey game and to UCT. Let's first of all say well done to UCT and bad luck to Picker. Hard luck to Paul Roos.
Yeah.
And Simon, I don't know whether you know Jonathan, is a Paul Roos old boy.
So that was devastating.
What really, and this has happened over the years, is you get a situation like Grey High School had, get a situation like UCT. Okay, guys, we're 20 points down. Let's just chuck the ball around, and go for it. Why don't they do that from the beginning? Side, it always amazes me that and we did it in our day. You suddenly say, guys, we're 10 points down, we've got nothing to lose, let's just run the ball around, and you'd score 2 fabulous tries in the last sort of like 10, 15 minutes of the game. It's quite funny.
I don't think you're wrong there at all. I think that's a pretty unexplored territory of the mental side of the game. And how often do we see it at the higher levels where players are conditioned to play according to some structure and game plan, and the individuality and the joy of shifting the ball around is taken out of the game, and they don't actually really get going.
I stopped watching the Paul Roos Grey game because I said to my wife, this is actually boring. It is
shows you what a good judge you are, eh?
No, well, I say it is so structured and so, that it was sort of like a line out and then a little break from the scrum half and then kick, and then everybody charging into one another.
Yes.
Paul Roos scored a good try via their right wing when they did use the space, and Grey was short of defenders, and so they moved the ball out to their right wing and scored a very good try. And it was a game that I sat and I thought, well, this isn't really catching my attention. And I missed a good game, ultimately, because at the end, suddenly, the Grey little fullbacks obviously started running, and they scored a couple of tries, and Gavin Cowdy, the commentator, actually, and he's an old Grey boy, said, well, Grey finally get on the scoreboard, sort of thing, And I just say it's incredible. And I remember look at the Chiefs. Look at the Chiefs in 2 games now against the Bulls and against the Cheetahs have suddenly found themselves well down. They say, bugger it, let's just chuck the ball around and score fabulous tries. Interesting.
Yeah. And also quite interesting, they scored 5 tries against the Bulls and 6 tries against the Cheetahs. They came back from massive deficits to draw 2 games, one with a touchline conversion and the other one needing also 7 points to draw, and 2 draws in 2 games on their tour. They didn't win a game. Both times the referee was Craig. That's pretty scary stat. Scoring 11 tries away from home.
Yeah.
You don't win a game, but you don't lose one either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, okay. Blades, if I could just ask Jono one more question on his involvement. What is your involvement with UCT exactly?
My role was I had a long chat with Kevin before the season started, and he wanted me on board as a technical analyst in the specific fields of player development, team strategy, and refereeing matters.
Okay.
So obviously, the refereeing matters is something that is pretty obvious to the public, but the The other two involve dealing with personnel on a collective basis or an individual basis, depending on the conversation that's to be had, and highlighting to them plays in the game or different aspects of what they're doing, which is either beneficial or not for the greater team effort.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, Jono, let's get on to Super Rugby. Your weekend.
Yeah. Look, Blades, I'm just going to give Tank Lanning from the front row grunt a bit of a puncher.
Oh, not Lanning. He always manages to find a way to worm himself back into the station.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to do it because...
no, it's fine. He's all right.
Yeah. But in actual fact, I've got a little tipping competition going with Corne Krika, Marius Joubert, John Mitchell, myself, and Robert Bloomberg, he's a professional in the realm. And Tank was the first bloke that's got a full house. So he's actually predicted every single winner on this particular weekend. I think it's week 8 and week 9, and he's the first guy to do it. So big rap for Tank. Well done. Blades, before we go into Super, I don't want to lose the thread of the point that I wanted to make in Varsity Cup. And that is there's a couple of things that we haven't mentioned. First of all, I just want to say how magnanimous Robert Dupree was, the losing coach of the Puka. Came around to speak to all of us, despite obviously losing the game. And I think that speaks volumes for him as a person. And I'm sure he's going to go on to do great things as a coach. I wanted to congratulate Marius and JD Jedasweni for their efforts on match day. The game, it wasn't perfect. There were a couple of errors, but the errors went both ways. And I think they were very worthy of refereeing that final. Definitely, in my opinion, the best team. And then allied to that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the 2-referee system because, there were a lot of pluses and there were a lot of drawbacks. And I've long been a fan of the 2-referee system, and I would hate it to be shot down on the basis that there were teething problems. I still think it's the way forward, but I think what the public need to understand is that the referees that were used are often not test referees. They're contender referees. They're referees looking to make a name for themselves, and really they haven't had a lot of time to, they've been the trendsetters. They've been the guinea pigs. And I think they've done exceptionally well in very trying circumstances. Obviously, not all the teams, not all the combinations worked out that well, and that's a matter of management. That's not so much, the product of the team. Sometimes, if I had to referee, for example, with Craig Joubert, I would feel a lot more comfortable that we're on the same page as me refereeing with a more technical referee like a Stuart Dickinson. So it's not to say the product would necessarily be better, but we would feel more comfortable together. So, those type of problems will be ironed out, but I really do think that this is the way forward, and I'm not taking a step back. So that's all I've really got to say, on the 2-referee system. If we look at the Super Rugby, I think, Highlanders Bulls, I don't know what you felt, Blades, but I thought, once again, the Bulls showed quite a lot of heart. And they looked like they were bossing the game at one stage.
Yeah, they did.
The Highlanders were down and out. They were 13-3, and obviously, that's not a big score in this day and age because obviously you can come back quickly and score a couple of tries and then put pressure on the opposition. But just the way the game was going, the Bulls actually looked quite dominant. And obviously, Victor adds not only a leadership component but also in the line-out, he's a machine. So
yeah, he is. John, I didn't watch the entire game, but I watched with intense interest the last 20 minutes of the game, and I have to say that the Bulls' handling was atrocious.
Yeah,
the stat came up. It's something like 17 handling errors. Now, I know that people lose the ball in impact of a tackle and that type of thing. But, it's just an interesting point, just a slight aside. I talk at quite a lot of schools and I say, the rugby almost goes in sort of columns. You have the column A where you have your setup and your coaches and the whole thing. And then you have column B where you do the skills training and your scrumming and your line outing, and then you have column C where you implement those two situations into column D, which is a result. And a lot of people assume that if you've got column A and B right, that D is going to be right, i.e. result. But the implementation thereof is forgotten about. And I talk at schools and I say, you do your skills. I'm worried about the skills level of South African youngsters, frankly. And they all say, no, we do. I say, but do you implement them on the rugby field? And in fact, once the Bulls would running the ball from scrum half to wing in the warm-up, just like scrum half, boom, 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 to the wing. And I turned to Joel and I said, watch these eyes, they're actually wasting their time. And he sort of looked at me a little bit quizzically. I said, because they never do that in a game.
Yeah.
And, that's what worried me a little bit about the Bulls. And I think Justin Marshall, who was the comments guy, who I think is brilliant,
Yes.
made the point. He said you can't win a game if you have 17 handling errors.
Yeah, I was getting to that, Blades, because I think what I was going to say was that dominant display could never be translated into a win because of the number of errors that they made. So in this particular case, it wasn't so much. I mean, you could, like you correctly said, you could argue that a couple of the hits were dominant tackle from the Highlanders, or they were very good defensive plays, but not 17 times.
Well,
not 17.
Thing, yeah.
Not 17 times. That's not gonna do it against any team. So I think the coaching staff will be disappointed, and I think the players really need to lift their game. These were two games that they could have won. If you looked at how well they played, for a young team against the Hurricanes last week, only to fall short, and now this week they displayed a lot of good things. Their line-out was good. They picked up a lot of penalties in the game, so they won that count. They were able to exert pressure but not come away with any points, which was very disappointing for their supporters.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, so then we had the Chiefs and the Rebels. And, at one stage, I did think the Chiefs would be quite dominant, but obviously they have come back from a 3-week travel, and maybe I overestimated how good they were. Maybe I underestimated the resolve of the Rebels to try and win a game. I heard a very disturbing stat that they won only 3 away games in something like nearly approaching 40 fixtures, which that's not a great stat to read, but they have at times shown that they can play. And, to come away with a bonus point from this game, I think was a good result for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I thought
what about the Force?
I thought just the Force were magnificent. They're everybody's whipping horse, and they've proved everybody wrong. Basically, that to come away, they're setting new records along the way. They're playing with incredible resolve. You can see what a close-knit family they are. Their defensive effort is just fantastic. So, I still rate the Waratahs. I still think the Waratahs will go all the way. But it just shows that they've also got a bit of work to do. And it also shows that a team with much less resources, if they apply themselves, for the full 80, can also come away with a result.
Yeah, the other thing is that, it would appear that the Waratahs, if Israel Folau doesn't play, they're just not the same side.
They're not the same attacking force because he does add huge value to the team. But I do think that, Bernard Foley, I think, is a very good attacking 10. And I think they've got weapons. I think their pack is very strong. I think they've got a good scrum, competent line-out. I think they're very well structured, and I rate their coaching staff. So I think the Waratahs are on an upward trend. Like I've said before, and I had a little chat with their coaching staff as well. I think their biggest challenge will be to define their culture. So how do they want to play their rugby, and how do they want to do it consistently? And if there's holes in their makeup, how do they address it? It's very, very difficult. There's a hell of a demanding public there in Sydney, and the media's always on top of their team and their players. So
right.
It's quite an intimidating type of place. But once again, let's take nothing away from the Force. They've got 5 on the trot, and who knows where this will end. Blades, I'll just get on to the game. I thought the Reds Brumbies was always going to be an arm wrestle. I think the Brumbies probably have better personnel at the moment, but obviously when you play at as at Suncorp Stadium. The Reds are very difficult to beat at home. It is a fortress, and on Saturday it was no different. There were a couple of incidents in that game which really which worried me, and it worried me from a referee perspective more than anything. We had an incident, like I've said, Blades. I mean, this is not a program where we here to knock referees,
Yeah.
But and I think all players and coaches, and maybe even some of the public as well, they're happy to forgive referees for mistakes that they make on the run, because it's a dynamic game, and sometimes we are going to make mistakes. And I think, I made as many as anybody else, and I put up my hand when I have made them. But and I think the world accepts that it's not a perfect environment that we operate in. But when you have a slow-mo and you still make an error on the basis of looking at a picture in slow motion and you don't get it right, for me that is much less forgivable. And we saw a classic case of that. There was a referral for a Brumby player taking a Reds player out on the 22 within kicking range, and the referee had another look at it and said, play on. Now, for me, that is unforgivable, because he has the facility of the slow motion. And so what you're doing is you're looking at something and you're saying, no, I'm not seeing the picture that everybody else is seeing. And so, obviously there was 3 points. If the Reds wanted the 3 points, there was 3 points in the bag. And I just thought that's not good enough from a senior referee. And in this type of game, which is always going to be tough, these Aussie derbies can be very brutal. They're often arm wrestles, not always, but they're often arm wrestles because the players know each other, so they cut down the space. These little points are very important. In addition, there was a controversial moment where Will Genia scored a try in the corner, and for all money it was a try. But what the Reds have been doing a lot this season is holding back the opposition around the fringes of a ruck or post-tackle situation, those players that don't really want to get involved, or those players that are trying to be the pillar or post defender.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, Ed Quirk held back Stephen Moore, who tried to break free and then clocked him. And it was a strong punch. It certainly sent the perpetrator of the holdback flying, and then Genia scored the try. And on review, nothing happened to the guy who threw the punch. Now, you've seen in previous games how the Stormers players have been sent off for retaliation. You've seen in previous games how penalties have been turned around and nothing was done about it.
Yeah.
Now, once again, I'll say the same thing. If the referee misses it in motion, it is totally forgivable. Totally, because you cannot possibly see everything. Even the assistant referees, they often say, what are they watching? It is forgivable if they miss it. They're not always focused on the thing that the TV camera picks up. So it's forgivable. But when you see it on slow motion and you decide to do nothing about a blatant punch,
Yeah.
then you have to ask questions. It's just not good enough at that level.
Yeah. Now, okay, that's a good point. You just have to ask questions. Who does ask the questions? And I know we've gone into this before. I think on our first program, you told us how the referees were rated and how they were assessed and that sort of thing. Now, there would be an assessor at that game, wouldn't there?
Blades, there may be an assessor at the game, but the crucial component really is the manager. So that's Lyndon Bray, and then he's got 3 selectors that help him out, one from each country. And they divide obviously it's very difficult to review 7 games and then get on with your daily, functionality and the operational side of things every week. So they they split let's say the assessment of each game. And depending on who would assess that game, a report would be submitted, and then referees themselves would submit their own report. And then there would be a dovetailing of ideas. So a reading of the 2 reports and almost like an acknowledgement of, yes, you're actually right, or sometimes a debate. I don't see it the same way as the reviewer. And so let's just have a discussion. There'd be a coaching component which would come into it post-match. So in the preview for the next game, or maybe a phone call to say, listen, I didn't think your last game was the best. The reason was X, Y, Z. And then it would be up to the referee to take it on board or not. It would be totally up to him. And then obviously those type of results would be put together in the pot to determine where this particular referee would stand on the panels and if he would be considered for playoff games or not.
Okay.
And like I said, Blades, it's an absolutely ridiculous situation. But at the RB level, you've got a RB manager of referees, but he only meets his referees twice or three times a year. So where's the actual coaching taking place?
Yeah.
The players get coached, let's say 4 times a week and then game day, or 5 times a week and game day. So they're together. They're a family. They're together all the time. And they're receiving coaching. They're training together. I understand refereeing is more of an individual pursuit. We do act a little bit Lone Ranger, but the reality is that we don't receive nearly enough coaching. And it's the same, when I started out reffing Super Rugby in 1998, I pointed out to the selectors at that very young age that I'm getting 3 games per season. The players are getting 12, 13 games a season. How am I supposed to be on the same level as them when they're getting that many opportunities and I'm getting just 3?
Yeah.
And my games are in week 2, week 7, and week 11, as an example. How am I supposed to keep up with those players?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of holes in the system which are not actually being acknowledged. Maybe they are being acknowledged, but nothing's actually being done about it because we're now almost 15 to 20 years advanced down the track, and still we have these issues.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Just hold on. We've had Joseph Gremlin. You're still answering my question, and also Gustav Skumbi. Thanks for your tweets, guys. We've actually handled the question. I asked the question. I thought I'd asked the question. Who were the hookers? That I don't think Simon was listening. Who were the hookers? That
you didn't ask. You didn't say hookers. You said who did
he
he pack down with?
That's
all you asked.
Okay, right. So, Yusuf, I think Joseph or Yusuf, you've named all the forwards. Well done. And also, Gustav, thanks for your interest. One of the tweets we had, Jonathan, was about swearing. And I didn't see it, but apparently somebody swore at the referee during the weekend, one of the overseas games.
One of the Force players or touched it. The guy kicked it out into touch. I didn't see it either. Let me find the tweet here. It says,
I'm trying to find
it was the fullback of the Waratahs who swore at the assistant referee, calling him an effing idiot. Apparently the Force player touched it, and obviously the line-out went against the Waratahs.
Yes. Okay, so
did you pick that up, or did you know about it?
No, I didn't know about it, and I can only give a general comment on that type.
Okay, your comment.
All right. So the general idea is that I'm very proud of rugby union and the administration of the game for ensuring that our culture is different from some other codes. And I've strived really hard in my 31 years as a referee to ensure that I respect the participants on match day and vice versa. And I think by and large achieved a great deal of success doing it. But the reality is that we are going to be presented with different challenges as the game moves on. And this is one of the challenges. One of the challenges is how far are we going to allow players to challenge their environment, to challenge decision making. And, for me, this is well beyond what's acceptable. And this is not up to just the referee to take action. If this did take place and it's clearly audible or visible, perhaps the player should be brought in and asked to justify what he said, or perhaps acknowledge if he did actually say it, and then maybe some sanction for that type of thing. Because I really feel it's one of the beautiful things of our game of rugby is the way that players respect the authority of the referee, even sometimes when the referee is not having a good game or not making the right decision. And I understand from a player's perspective, obviously I've been in the coaching box, so I understand frustration. You've got to find a way around it. There has to be a measure of tolerance for the fact that it's a very difficult job, and sometimes officials don't get it right, just like players don't get it right as well.
Okay. If a player does swear at you, are you justified in admonishing him and giving a penalty?
Blades, if a player swears at me, I won't just give a penalty. If he uses foul language, then I may just chat to him, because I don't think that, I don't really like to get involved. I don't think it's a great idea to get emotional on the field and allow anything other than the players to determine the outcome of a game. But when a player is clearly abusive towards a referee, then it needs much stronger action. So, and when I say referee, I mean any match official.
Yeah.
So, I consider the assistant referees to be an extension of myself. They are certainly part of the team of officials that are trying their best, and it's not really up to a player to crit the referee or the assistant referees and decide whether they're having a good game or not.
Yeah. Okay. We've left out the local sides. Cheetahs against Crusaders.
Yeah. Once again, Blades. The Cheetahs, just like they did against the Chiefs, they play a brand of rugby which is really easy on the eye. They achieved a huge amount of success last year with their style, and a lot of a lot of people were very supportive of what they achieved. I think this year they're probably underachieving. I don't think their team is as bad as the results suggest, but they're just. I find their defensive effort quite loose, and they're leaking points in every game. They leak huge amount of points.
Okay, I was there in Bloemfontein. I mean, they are their own worst enemy.
Yeah, I just find every game, if they conceded, okay, they scored a lot against the Chiefs, but they conceded 30 plus points against the Chiefs, 40 against the Blues, 50 against the Crusaders. I mean, this is generally, this is a damning stat. And you can look at a whole bunch of other things, but the defensive effort is not good enough. When you're leaking that amount of points, there has to be something very wrong. In some games you don't get it right. You have an off day, and you ship a few tries. That's understandable. But when it's happening week in and week out, you've got to start asking questions of the defensive effort of the team.
Yeah.
And I can't really say, and none of us can, Blades, because the reality is that a lot of the players from last year are back again this year. Maybe the effort and the skill of a player like Robert Everson is now brought into the full glare. That in actual fact,
how good he was defensively.
Yeah, he's a smaller bloke, but how good he was. Because I always rated Robert Everson. I think Robert Everson. I know that he's a smaller man, but I'm not obsessed with size like some other people, and I really think his skill, particularly defensively, and his team. I don't know if you noticed, but how often he would ship the ball to somebody else to go and score the try. His unselfish attitude towards his team was truly amazing. I picked it up from a very early age. His leadership ability and what he brought to that team.
Basically, when he was still at school. But I think, you're right. Just his general organizational ability. And when we talk about organizational ability, it's his positional play that other guys can play off and rely on a stable line of defense where he doesn't panic. I think that one of their problems is that Reno Benjamin is very inexperienced in the number 12 position, given that he's a very talented player. The other thing is, the Cheetahs, they sort of score, and then they'll mess up the kickoff, and there'll be a line out, and they'll try a long line out or a quick line out, and they get themselves in such a shambles. That's why I say they sort of like their own worst enemies. I mean, they scored 31 points against the Crusaders. They got right back in the game, and then did some diabolical things in terms of quick line-outs and tap penalties and things like that.
Yeah, look, it's desperation born out of the will to win, and also, I think the players as well. They're trying their best to perform, to get over the line, and sometimes the rationale behind it is sound, but the execution is quite poor. So they're ending up making a hell of a lot more errors than was the case last year. And I'd be disappointed if I was part of this team, because I really rate some of the personnel in the team, and the coaching staff hasn't changed. I mean, they've been around the blocks for a while, so they know exactly what they're doing, and I think they'll be disappointed as well. And I won't forget, that Naka said prior to the season that this was the most talented squad that he's ever had at his disposal. So obviously, if that is the case, then they're a hugely underperforming outfit.
Yeah. Okay, let's a listener's reaction, Mr. JK. Why don't they let a ref train with a rugby team while they practice against a full team and get training there?
Sometimes, look, if I was part of the head coach of the referees, I would insist that there was more interaction between referees and the teams, and they're not just one way, because that is what happens at the moment. At the moment, the referees go to the franchises, like the Stormers were my franchise, and we tell the teams, we give the teams instruction from a law perspective. What the referees don't get enough of is the ability to understand what teams are trying to achieve, where the threats are coming to the expansive game, perpetual infringers, players that are doing the same thing over and over again and getting away with it, teams that have got that same issue. And I think it's a very good. I don't know who wrote in, but it's a very, very good idea, and it's something that has been undervalued for years. Is the role that a referee could, not the role, the amount of learning that a referee could take from just working in a team environment and understanding the game slightly better than they do.
Johnny, can I just change the subject and ask you about the Reds Brumbies game and Steve Walsh's decision to disallow the Reds try because it was basically came down to jersey tugging. Did you see that?
Yes.
And we've had a couple of people tweeting us about it. Your thoughts on the try being disallowed and the whole jersey tugging, because we see it happening quite a lot.
Yeah. So what I've said is there's some teams that are prone to this type of thing. They take players out, they hold them back, they hold them down, they take them past the ball, they don't allow them to be pillar post defenders. And the Reds are unfortunately got some players in their team who are even tackling players beyond the breakdown. So it's not just holding them; it's tackling them. That's happened at numerous stages, not just this season, but in previous seasons as well. And I think that the Reds, I actually feel, in one respect, okay, so they're going to be their own worst enemy. In other respects, I actually feel quite sorry for them, because I think they've borne the brunt of a couple of bum calls in this year's competition, and it may end up hurting their aspirations of getting into the playoffs. In this particular case, like I said, I mean, I've alluded to the fact that there was a gift 3 points which was overlooked by Steve in this particular case, where I felt it was a really poor call because it was done in slow motion. And then this particular try, where this is the reasoning behind it is that if a player holds another player back and then he gets hit, the referee must decide whether the action, was worthy of a warning, was worthy of sanction, or increased sanction, like a yellow card or more. In this particular case, this player, I'll stand to be corrected, but I think it was Quirk, was holding back.
Yeah, Stephen Moore.
He was holding back Stephen Moore, and Stephen Moore obviously got upset with it and hit him.
He murdered him.
He didn't hit it. He didn't hit him. Yeah, he murdered him. He didn't hit him. He didn't hit his arm down, as is the case where other players even in this year's competition have done it. He hit him in the face, and it was a proper shot. So now if the ref misses it, that's fine, because we miss those things. It is possible that they miss it, but when you see it and you do nothing about it, I'm sorry, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
And why I say it's not good enough is because there's been precedent set, not just in this year's competition, but in previous year's competition as well. And in this year's competition, you saw an excellent example of a referee dealing with players holding other players back and then giving the opposition team a general warning in the Stormers Crusaders game. And obviously it carried on happening in the game. And eventually, Jean de Villiers, who's no mug as a captain, let me tell you, he's one of the best captains I've dealt with in all my time. He went to the referee and said, "Please tell me what you would like me to do, because my players can't do anything else." We're getting held back every single breakdown. We're getting tackled away from the ball. Please tell me what you'd like me to do. So it is a big problem in the game. I've said it week in and week out. Nothing gets done about it because the referee's sanction doesn't meet the crime. So players will continue doing it because the referee's sanction is not strong enough.
Yeah, well, in this case, there was nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely
There was nothing.
The other thing is that
I don't even know, has there been a sighting? A player hits another player in the face. Has there been a sighting?
To my knowledge, no.
and a lot of people, let's just clarify something. A lot of people would say, well, he was being held. But remember, in terms of the laws of rugby, in terms of the spirit and the soul of the game, retaliation is penalizable.
Blades, let me just, sorry, I have to butt in there.
Yeah.
Retaliation is penalizable, but the referee had a whole range of options available to him. If the retaliation was similar to the initial offense, then the initial offense would have been sanctioned, right?
Yeah,
So if the offenses are similar, I hit you, you hit me back, we're not going to penalize the retaliator. You penalize the first offense because the actions are similar. If I hold your jersey and you knock me out, well, that is different. Those are different actions. So you may well decide, okay, I'm going to yellow card Quirk for doing this because I've had enough and this is happening repeatedly. But then Moore deserves a higher sanction because clearly his action is elevated from the previous one. Yeah. But he received absolutely no sanction.
So what? So
you've got to watch this.
So you're saying So you're saying that basically jersey tugging is too difficult to police, and the only solution is, I don't know, condone on-field violence. I don't know.
Oh no! I'm not.
No. But I mean, that's the message. That's the message that not from you, but when they don't do anything about it, that's the impression that you get.
Well, if you let an incident like that happened in the Reds Brumbies, where a player hits another player in the face, and you can clearly see it, and the referee gets, I am totally forgiving. I'm a referee myself, so I understand how easy it is to miss these type of things. But when you see it, and then you have the facility of seeing it in slow motion, and you decide, no, I'm going back for some other piffly infringement on the other side of the field, you do nothing about that. You've got to start asking questions. What is happening on the field? And then nothing happens post-event either. So you say, yes, we're not even citing that. Now that's where that judicial, that's where the public gets frustrated with that judicial procedures, because I guarantee you that you would have had a lot of messages if that was a South African team and the player had got, if the South African player got hit, or if it happens next week when a South African team plays against one of those teams, player holds him back, the South African guy says, no, precedent has been set, so I'm just going to smash this guy.
Yeah.
And then what happened? And then he'll get sent off, and then you'll say, no, but you set precedent the week before. Nothing was done about that.
Yeah, okay. One game we haven't touched on, Jono, is the local derby, Lions Sharks.
Yes, Blades. I say this week in and week out. I'm a massive fan of the way that the Lions are playing. They're playing for each other. They play with a smile on their face. They've got some players that Johan Ackerman has really, him and his coaching staff have really helped to develop. Guys like Faf and Monitz Boshoff, I'm a massive fan of that 9-10 combination.
Yeah,
and also
the way they've come on, unreal.
Yeah, I mean they're competing with the best in the Southern Hemisphere, and they're doing a really good job. I mean, they can feel really proud of their efforts. But I wouldn't be surprised if Monitz Boshoff in particular gets a call up to Springbok training camp, because there's a lot that he can do and there's very little he can't. And so, and the same goes, I know he's not the typical physically imposing number 8 that, that's been the trend in South African rugby, but geez, his work rate is phenomenal around the park. Like really, he's just a tire around the field. And, you can argue the toss of the coin here and there. I mean, the Sharks may have edged the game, but, the Lions and their supporters can feel really proud of what they've delivered so far this year.
Great. Okay, Jono, I think that's about it. We've had, the time flies, hey? So we've been going nearly an hour. Once again, thanks for joining us on a Monday morning. Once again, Tell those UCT guys they were damn lucky. Stop partying and get
And
on
do
with
some
it.
studies.
No, well done. Well done to UCT. I'm a great fan of the way they play rugby. I am a great friend of Robert de Preer and James Smalls, and I'm very pleased to hear you say that Robert was magnanimous. After
I'll say it again, mate. Magnanimous.
Thank you, magnanimous. After the game, and I saw James. In fact, I watched the second half at home. I dashed home and watched that remarkable comeback. And I saw James in amongst the players, and I thought, Robert must be really the hell in, and I'm a bit worried about his reaction. But I'm pleased to hear that he was very sporting.
Very sporting, and so were all the PIC administration. They were nothing short of magnanimous, very generous in their praise. They never complained. They never said how unlucky they were. And the reality is, we carried on playing till the end of the game, and that is the reality of sport. That's the ethos of sport. You play till the final whistle, and come what may. Like I said to these guys, this type of thing may never ever happen again in your life, and you were part of something special. And that's why the celebration's gone on for this first week, and there's a lot planned in the second week as well.
Yeah, great. Okay,
Awesome.
Jonathan Kaplan, once again, the world's most experienced referee in terms of Super Rugby and in terms of international rugby. Jono, have a wonderful week, and great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, Jono. Cheers, man.
Bye.
Simon.
Cheers, Jono. Bye.
Balls.co.za